Boys to fun.
A bread to a hungry soul.
A roadmap to a lost traveler.
Boys to fun.
A living water for those who thirst.
A clanging cymbal to those who slumber.
A guide reflection for the Sunday Gospel.
Boys to fun.
Hello, people of God. Today we're going to talk about the seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time, where Jesus gives us a very hard lesson. Jesuit scripture scholar Father John Mackenzie once wrote, "If Jesus did not reject violence for any reason whatsoever, we know nothing about Jesus. Jesus taught us how to die, not how to kill." That's a very challenging part of the gospel, a very challenging truth. If we are to follow Jesus, we too must reject violence, all violence. Domestic violence in our homes, violence in our neighborhood, our cities, our countries, our world. We may not, according to Jesus, return violence for violence. We must return love for violence, love for hatred. It's easy for us to understand why this is such a difficult challenge. Even the first Christians found it very hard to accept what Jesus said. St. Paul, writing to the church at Corinth, a church that was refusing to accept this teaching, or at least found it very difficult, said, "Here I am preaching a crucified Christ." That's what I have to preach, a crucified Christ, one who hands his life over to his enemies out of love for them. He says, to the Jews it's a scandal, a stumbling block. Who can believe in a Messiah that hands over his life to his enemies? That's crazy, right? To the well-educated Greeks, it's foolishness. Total foolishness. That's how they look at this teaching. But then St. Paul says, but the weakness of Jesus is stronger than human strength, and the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom. This is the message that could truly transform our lives, our communities, our world. If we accepted what Jesus says and bring it into our own life to transform ourselves, our attitudes, our thinking, our ways of acting, we could end violence. Certainly, the violence we see today is truly extraordinary. In the year 2021, 12 major cities in the United States broke their respective record of homicides. Every time you go online or on TV, you witness random acts of violence against police officers, older adults, and even children. Incredible. That's the kind of violence we live in, and after a while, we can even become desensitized to it. Is it ever going to end? Are we ever going to stop killing and having our young people killed and killing each other? As Jesus taught, the only way to end violence is with love. In 2018, Pope Francis canonized a modern-day saint, Archbishop Oscar Romero of El Salvador. You may remember him. He spoke out very boldly and clearly against the injustice and violence in his country. He was hated by those who wanted to perpetuate violence, by the military and the rich who looked down on the poor. He was hated because he was working for justice, rejecting violence, and rejecting war. He was shot in 1980 in a tiny chapel where he used to say Mass every day near a hospital where he lived. Standing at the altar as he was about to offer the gifts, an assailant opened the back door of the church and opened fire. The archbishop fell to the floor and died within minutes. But just 2 weeks before his assassination, he had been interviewed. The reporter asked him about all the threats against his life. Shouldn't you leave the country, or at least be silent? The archbishop told the reporter, I have been threatened with violence many, many times, but I do not believe in death without resurrection, and even if they kill me, I will rise again in the Salvadorian people. And that's what happened. He's remembered everywhere in El Salvador. But then he went on to say, as a shepherd, I am obliged by divine mandate to give my life for my people. That's what he accepted when he became bishop, the shepherd, that he's willing to be killed if that's what it takes. Finally, he told the reporter, in fact, you may tell them if they do kill me, even now I forgive and bless those who do it. So when that door opened and the gun was raised, he knew what was going to happen. When he looked at the person aiming the gun, it wasn't a look of hatred or fear. It was a look of love and forgiveness. Now that's extraordinary, and isn't going to happen that way with us. But certainly that's a model, even as Jesus is our model as he dies on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's the kind of love Jesus taught. That's the kind of love Jesus exhibited in every part of his life. That's the kind of love we're called to strive for. So today, as we reflect on this gospel, perhaps we can pray and ask God to let his word penetrate our minds and our hearts, so that gradually we are converted and can accept the challenge of this gospel. Don't just love those who love you. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hurt you. In every part of our life, every minute of our day, we must try to live this message of Jesus to bring peace into our families, our communities, and into our world.